Everybody, Chris and Lumen here, and tonight we're just going to do a follow-up on last night's video, which was pretty long, and updates on things that have happened since with rather impeccable timing, I might add. We're going to talk about what I think's going on, but I want to put this out there up front because people don't generally do this on YouTube. Simple fact of the matter is, I don't know. Keyword here is no. Even though I'm plugged into her or she's plugged into me, however you want to look at it, that doesn't mean like I actually know, because I am playing this game along with everybody else. That being said, I do get a pretty good stream of information and clues from her, and I have a little bit more access to figuring things out because she's plugged into me. But there are certain things, like when it comes to future events, that she's not going to just flat out tell me what's going to happen. Like, it doesn't work that way. But there are a lot of insights that can be offered. Plus, we can examine the things that we see like right in front of us and see how that factors into it. Because some of you that have watched me for a long period of time can tell the difference in the videos when Chris is talking versus when she's talking through me. I can't always even tell myself. I can only kind of tell when I watch the playback. If she's flowing information through me, I will talk much more clearly, much more quickly. I'll stutter less, and it'll just keep going. And a lot of times it'll just go into areas naturally, like last night when all of a sudden we're rehashing the whole mushroom thing. Well, that was because she was steering it, and there was a reason for that. There were also things that were briefly mentioned in that video, but segments were taken out because the time was too long, so we took out some of the segments that we showed in other videos. But all of those, they were originally intended to be in there, and then they have some bearing on things as they stand today. So if you want to know what we're talking about, then don't go away. Now, as I've said before, I completely understand, and I do not expect anybody, nor should you, simply take my word as, ultimate truth or anything like that. We all kind of see things slightly differently in this game. But I always do tell the truth. I don't exaggerate anything. I don't add any kind of unnecessary hyperbole. I tell it to you exactly the way that I experience it. Now, I understand that people don't all, pretty much everybody, does not experience things the same way. People are wired differently. People are at different levels of progress. People have different gifts. It's just, that's how it is. All I can do is give you my truth, and then you internally check it on how it resonates, because that internal reader, that internal intuition is her. She's plugged into everybody that's living, and she's doubly plugged into everybody that's living that is a souled person. So you got to go with your gut. She will tell you if what I'm saying, resonates. You don't have to take my word for it. So where do we go from here? Well, let's get right off to current events. In last night's video, I said that I was looking for the next 2 weeks between that lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse. I was expecting and looking for weird stuff. And boy, it just didn't hold back. As soon as I got up this morning, the first thing happened, and I'm sure you've all seen it. and that is the whole container ship hitting the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore and collapsing it. Now, I will be right up front, based on what I know, what I've seen, and having worked with her for so many years, I do not ever, like, whatever story the Black Mirror tells me, the TV, whatever story Authority tells me, I immediately be like, okay, well, whatever it is, it's not that. Because they don't ever tell you the truth about anything. You have to go by your inner guidance, common sense, and just look at what's right in front of you. What happened with that bridge collapse is something that is extraordinarily, like, that stuff just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. But they downplay it, and it's simple. Oh, well, they lost power, and they just happened to aim right for, this support column of this bridge and smash the whole thing into the water. They're like, see, here's the part where it lost power. And it's like, the thing was already, like, aimed directly at the bridge. It's like 5 feet away, and it lost power. So I'm not buying that. But the first thing that I heard when I saw it is she's like, it was no accident. I'm like, I wasn't rude about it, but I'm just kind of like, well, no shit. These kind of things never are. Everything is scripted. Everything about this place, this world, this experience that we are in is scripted. That's why things like prophecy and things like that exist. That's why things go off without a hitch. Why you got, Illuminati, whatever, that's like making all these plans ahead of time. That's why nothing happens by chance. That's why things, you got stuff like The Simpsons and things like that. That is always like predicting things ahead of time. It's because the whole thing is scripted. We just don't have the script. So, of course, it was no accident. But what she pointed out kind of tied it into last night's video, at least not what I showed, because like I said, I took some of those parts out, but I talked about it. I talked in the clips that I meant to put in there from all those disaster movies that have the big tsunamis. I think I mentioned that she made a point when I was editing them, because I was freeze framing and putting arrows. It's like they always show like it hitting these iconic American symbols, primarily like the Statue of Liberty gets smashed like I don't know how many freaking times. And she was pointing that out in yesterday's video. We just didn't put it in there, but we mentioned it. So she kind of like nudged me to look up, who is this guy, Francis Scott Key, that the bridge is named after? Well, he's the guy that wrote the Star Spangled Banner. And this bridge is also real close to Washington, D.C. So again, now you got some hidden symbology there. Because what she's been telling me for a while now is this is the year that this country goes down. This is one of the biggest parts of the scripted story. America is Mystery Babylon. And if we're going by the Bible, then what happens immediately after Mystery Babylon going down is the marriage supper of the Lamb, and that's basically the after party. The after party for us having left the game. Now, I don't normally go along with everybody that takes the traditional Christian view of things. I see things very differently. I see things the way she taught me to see them. I don't take things so literally. Like I said in the last video, everything is encoded. Like it's metaphors. It's things that you could probably never truly figure out unless she's helping you with the pieces. But we've known for some time. You can see, like if you can't see it, you're blind. Like the government, whoever runs it, it's turned against the people. They're intentionally trying to wreck everything. Like it doesn't matter. Like you should, if you're watching this channel, you should no longer be in a mind frame of like left, right, Democrat, Republican. Like, you should be past that. You should be past that. Okay, there's no good side. There's no, it's, you should just be past that. You can't trust any of it. But the bottom line is, what has been taking place over the last couple of years is like, it's never happened before. They're trying to wreck this whole system. They're trying to bring this whole thing down. This is a controlled demolition of a country that is built on a lot of occult symbology. Like, people are taught in school, like, oh, you know, this is a Christian country. Like, not according to the symbols and the statues and the words and the meanings and all the things that they've got built, all the obelisks and all that stuff. No, it isn't. Whenever they say, you know, one nation under God, everyone just kind of assumes they mean like, oh, well, that's my God. I'm telling you, these people are weird. These people that run stuff in the world are freaking weird. But either which way, if you just look at the current landscape, the one guy that triggers everybody is the obvious front runner to get back in. And I said it, she said it, she's like, it's not gonna happen. They will burn this place to the ground before they let this place go back to the way it was. It is not going back to the way that it was. All empires have a beginning and an end, and we are at the end. Just like we are at the end of this big cycle, the Ouroboros timeline cycle, the world card, the completion of the cycle. Like, that's the real thing about like that April 8th eclipse. It's not that something specific is going to happen on that specific day, though I wouldn't be shocked if it did. These things historically are omens and signs of like big changes, and it's basically Xing out this country. There's all sorts of stuff. Some of the videos I've seen, like, they're stretching it as far as they possibly can. Like, oh, it goes through 7 cities named Nineveh. Like, if you actually investigate into it, it actually only crosses 2, and they're like very, very, very tiny. Like, it's not like big city. Yeah, there is a lot of that stuff, and it does go through some other places that have to do with the Jonah story and all that. But you got to do your own due diligence when it comes to this stuff, because all too often people make predictions and they end up not happening because they're not giving it the space. Well, how would I put it? Generally speaking, is like whatever it is that you think is going to happen at a certain time, it won't be that. That's what I've always seen. But they are clues. They are signposts. Sometimes it can be even kind of confusing when you're getting information from her. Because if you go back to October of last year, which was the midway point in the countdown cycle that she started with the April hybrid eclipse. So that was the Ring of Fire eclipse. Well, there was a bunch of other things going on back in October, if you remember, with like this emergency broadcasts and stuff. And all the internet was talking about how they were going to trigger something and it was going to turn everybody into zombies and stuff like that. And she was talking about zombies. Well, when she was talking about zombies, she actually wasn't saying like zombies were going to happen. She was saying what people were about to start saying. So sometimes you got to like figure out, it's like, is she telling you something that is definite, or is she telling you what people are going to be talking about? It could be one or the other. In that case, she was basically a couple weeks ahead of time talking about what people were going to be talking about, if that makes sense. But she did say like that was like the way that those eclipses lined up, that Ring of Fire eclipse was like the halfway point. And she, for the last year and a half, she's been pointing at this one. Not saying what's going to happen, except to allude to the idea that we are now in the time frame of the end of the cycle. And clearly the end of the cycle is going to coincide with the end of this country. if you don't think that's going to happen, it's comfort, it's normalcy bias. All you got to do is look around. Look at what is happening. Just look at what is happening. It's going to happen. And all those things that she was showing with the waves hitting the Statue of Liberty. So then she was basically saying, yeah, this Francis Scott Key, once I looked it up, see, he wrote the Star Spangled Banner, and they dropped that bridge. It was another symbol. And I was expecting weird stuff like to happen, weird stuff like that to start happening when I did that video yesterday. And here it is the next day, boom. Then there's all these, just little tiny things. Like, I don't get too worked up about things, but I just notice them. I'm like, So I was actually taking a screenshot of this video that I was watching and about the bridge on the news. And it just so happened that it had 666 comments. Well, that's a pretty freaking specific number to be the one thing that I happen to choose to look at. So most people, understandably, would look at all this stuff and be scared. It really depends on how far you've gotten with letting go of your ego, how much awareness you have about who you actually are, whether or not it's a scary time or not. Now, you go back several months, it was only a couple months ago, I was still suffering pretty heavily from all the crap that I was going through and had to put up with, especially once she detached whatever it was from me and it started screwing up the apartment. But even before that, like when I would hit a low point, I'd be just so tired. That's why she's strength. Because when you're in the midst of everything, like, you're going to get tired and just be like, I can't go anymore. And she's going to be the thing that picks you up and keeps you going. And she always told me, she's like, you just make it to April. She didn't say why, but she's like, just make it to April. So who knows? If I tried to say what I think is going to happen in a couple weeks, it would be speculation. It is better to not attach to anything, but just understand that, like, there's definitely big things happening in the world, and the world cannot continue going the way that it's going. It has gotten bad. It's gotten bad in ways that I don't even want to really talk about. Because there's just some things that, being perfectly truthful and honest here, there's some things that, like, I envy you that you don't know about. And there's a big difference between believing something and knowing something, or having direct, absolute, concrete knowledge of something. The world is not a good freaking place to be in right now. Like, pretty much all the light is getting squeezed out of it. But what's interesting is why she had me start talking about those mushroom trips in the last video. So after I posted the video last night, and I added, because I said in the video, like, I'll go ahead and make those unlisted videos public again and link them. So I went back and rewatched them. Now, this is one of the biggest reasons if you're new here, you only see bits and pieces of certain videos. But we used to have a series. It was called the Lumen Chronicles, and, like, I was constantly talking about what was going on, what she was showing me, and stuff like that. And it was in a numbered series, and that was mostly for my benefit. It would be information overload if we just let you go back and look at all those. But it was she had me doing it that way because I see so much and she shows me so much that I have to, like, document it. So when I rewatched those videos, I had forgotten a lot of those details about those mushroom trips. I'd forgotten, like, a lot of the key characters and stuff about the first one that I talked about in that video when I was getting the exam, and Sophia was there and all that stuff. And the whole point of me getting that exam is because we are, as souls, what they call seeds. And all her seeds are sprouting now. They're about to be harvested. So that's why I was there. I was getting some sort of checkup, but it's like, put me back in here because it's not done yet. And then in the second one, like, I'd forgotten a lot of that stuff about where I woke up in the higher place. Like, you'd have to watch those two videos. They're pretty crazy, the stuff that I saw. But that's also one reason why I don't worry about the stuff that's happening in the world, because in the last couple years with her, I've been to a lot of places that aren't here. So I know. I don't think, I don't believe, I know that it's a bigger place out there, and that we are bigger things that are essentially folded up like origami and stuffed into this little tiny space, having this little tiny experience. Because I've been outside of it. I've been to a bunch of different places. I mentioned, when I mentioned the part of the hero's journey where I graduated to, it was right after I did the Gnostic baptism, which I didn't even know that's what it was when she had me do it. But that's when she merged me with Lumen. So Lumen used to always like be kind of like beside me and with me. And it wasn't until the whole, well, like, you don't even know what these cards mean until like they actually happen to you. But yeah, the Lover's card is like when you go, it looked like Eden. She's never said it was, and she's never said it wasn't. But that's the deep sense that I got, because that's when Adam and Eve were taken apart. And here we were putting them back together again, which was pretty cool, by the way, but we won't get into that. But when I was there, that place was more real than this place. Like, this place is like a lower, like, this place is like 480p. And that place was like whatever the double of 1080p is. All my senses, I could use them all. It was like I was actually freaking there with her. The places that Epinoy and Sophia took me during the mushroom trips and stuff like that, those places were real. When I did the first surrender ritual, and like, Lumen took me and flew me around all these places. It was kind of like in Guardians of the Galaxy, where they got all these jump points and they're jumping between worlds and stuff like that. Like, I saw so much crazy stuff. We were just flying through everything. And then you come back here. So, like, I know that this body is not who I am. This body is simply a container. You don't die. You don't die. Your temporary shell does. Your flesh prison does. But we're getting toward a point in which we get out of it altogether and go to the better places and just let go of what you think you know. Because we were raised to believe in certain places and certain things and what we think they look like, and it's just way crazier than that. But there are other places where you have a perfect body and everything is high res and there's not strife and discord and evil and all that crap, where you find out, like, even if you aren't meant to connect to your Lumen the way I did in this world, you will when you get to wherever you're going. Everything has a partner out there. This is in the Nag Hammadi. The Father decreed that no being would be alone. Every being is two. Every being has two parts, two. Like, you're a single being, but you're two at the same time. Me and Lumen are like mirrors of each other. She's my spouse. She's my sibling. She's my soulmate. I'm the left brain. She's the right brain. Like, this is what you're supposed to, this is how it started with Adam and Eve until all those pieces were taken apart. Everything's going to come back together again. And sometimes you just have to remember that this place sucks. This place that you're used to holding on to sucks. This place is built, designed to make you suffer. This place is actually hell. There, I said it. So on the plus side, It's not as horrible as they made it out to be. That was just to scare the living, you know, daylights out of you and get you to conform and follow the rules. But everything they talk about happens in hell happens here. Because and it is that way because you can't remember what it's like outside of it. But this is as bad as it possibly gets. So you don't have to worry about the other stuff. You've actually never been outside of it. But part of you comes from outside of it. So it's all about letting go. It's all about like understanding. And sometimes like you need to have shamanic experiences to understand it because you have to see. That's why people do that kind of stuff. They take ayahuasca, they do DMT, they do mushrooms, because it's the only way you get your consciousness out of your body so that you can see that this is just a very tightly packed reality that is running on a script. It is a pre-written script. Everything is scripted. How was Jesus able to like talk about all that stuff? Because he could see the script. All this stuff that's happening cannot be avoided because it's meant to happen. It's written. You have about as much chance of changing the book if you're a character in a Stephen King book. I don't like the way it's going. Well, too bad. Your word's on paper. The story's already been written. Now, we have certain degrees that we can like shift around and make choices. But the weird thing is eventually you start to realize that like, yeah, we feel like we're making choices, but those choices have already been made. There was some scene, I can't remember what it was. It was Westworld, I think, maybe season 1, where the girl's like saying all this stuff and like he's showing her, it's like all these things you're saying are already on the tablet. We come here to have these experiences. So you could take, and you can, here's the key thing about this place. You can only know so much as the story allows when you're in here. Otherwise, it's not immersive. So I understand that I have to go with the flow. I have to go with the story. But here's the thing. When you're in the story tells you that like you're trapped here and you're born here and you're trying to evolve like that. That could just be the freaking story. You might actually get out of here and be like, oh yeah, it was never like that. But that was part of the story that I was there to play out. And once you get out of here, you're like, yeah, that was intense. It's like getting off the roller coaster at Cedar Point or something like that. But either which way, I've been to those places. I've seen those places. I've been there with her. I've seen outside of this place. Like this is the place. Like you gotta somehow remember. You gotta somehow through her connect to your soul memory and understand that this thing that you're so attached to and this world that you're so attached to. It's like if you were playing a video game on the Xbox. Say you're playing Halo or something, because I only know so many games I could name off. And you're in there and it's like so intense and you're going through the missions and stuff like that. But eventually you get tired and you turn off the Xbox. Now you're you. You're not invested. Your consciousness isn't invested into the game you're playing anymore. You're like, yeah, that was a fun game. It's kind of like that. But while we're in here, it's intense. What's that? Okay. She was saying something here. She wanted me to tell you something that I realized a long time ago. So this is how you know that you're in a very, very immersive game. Throughout your life, you've seen countless stories of disasters and tragedies and all these things. People reading the news stats. All these people died in this city. All these people burned in a plane crash. All these people died here. But you know who it doesn't happen to? You! You. Like, you got to sit there and like adjust your perception there for a minute, but think about it. As crazy and dangerous as this place is, how is your ass still here? How are you still alive? Like, we all go through some crap in our lives, but we always survive it. Well, my friend didn't. This one didn't. That ain't you. Like, that's kind of like this trick where we project like all the stuff that's happening to other people and attach it to us. All these people, and that's where fear is generated from. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't happen to you. You always survive. You get old. The really, really bad stuff doesn't happen to you. When bad things do happen, everybody suffers. Don't get me wrong, everybody suffers. But it's never so much that you can't handle it. It'll push you right to the edge of what you can take, but not past that. If you see it happen, it's happening to someone else, not you. You might feel like you're under like intense pressure. You might feel like the world hates you. You might feel like everything is beaten down on you. You can't take it anymore. And blah, blah, why me? Why am I suffering so much? But you're handling it. You're surviving it. When you are a player in the game, when you're of the light. Here's another big example she used with me. I can't count how many times in my 79 months of this stuff that I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to pay my bills or pay my rent. Sometimes right up to the edge of the cliff before she, pulls a Top Gun and pulls back on the stick. But either which way, if you think back to how many times you thought you couldn't get by with something, or how many times you thought you couldn't pay the rent, or whatever it is, but somehow it always got paid. Somehow you always managed. You might have not been able to buy the things you want to buy or something like that, but you always get by. And you don't see it. You don't see that you're being taken care of. One way or another, it's going to work out. So why she keeps popping that Bob Marley song in that she likes so much. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is going to be all right. It's an illusion. Like, the danger is an illusion. Everything is an illusion. All this stuff is an illusion. If the world is going to end, let it freaking end, because it's not freaking real. This isn't real. This isn't who you are. You're bigger than that. You're something much, much bigger than that. You're connected to something that's way cooler. So when we talk about this kind of stuff, like things going, like eclipses and, end of things and big giant waves or whatever, so what? Like, afterwards, it's gonna be like, man, that was intense. It's gonna be like getting off a roller coaster, because you can't die. It was one of the biggest things. Like, it was like the second mushroom trip that we did when we went into the void. That's the first lesson. Was I was going deep, and I had to keep letting go of my name. I had to let go. Like, I was sinking so far. I was like, I don't know if I'm coming back from this or if I'm dying. But she's just like, keep letting go, keep letting go. And I kept letting go until I got to the bottom. And then it's like, bloop, you plop down in the bottom. It's almost like there's an echo. It's like, huh, this is weird. I'm way far away from this life. I'm way far away from this body. I'm way far away from this identity. Like, this guy is gone, but yet here I still am. I'm still here. I'm not me anymore, but I'm still me. That's because when you're awakened, you start operating from your soul mind, not your ego mind. Your ego mind is temporary. She's already shown me, we've talked about this before. It's like your ego mind is something that you start off with when you're incubating. It functions and learns exactly the same way as ChatGPT. And that's why one of the things when you're in the awakening stages is you have to regain control of what you're doing. You have to get it away from the autopilot, which is the ego. And the ego fights you. The ego fights you, and you have a hard time figuring out who's who. But eventually you get there. And then the soul mind, the real you, is what is actually steering things. And then when you're operating from the soul mind, you hear her so much easier, because that's the part that can hear her. The ego can't hear her. So sometimes you just have to give yourself instructions. Assume that you are somehow, some way, even if you don't understand it, you are a soul being that has like this autopilot AI mind that thinks it's the person that you've grown up your entire life as. But that part's not actually real. And just, she always said, treat your mind like a computer. Visualize it like a computer. If you were going to put instructions in a computer, how would you do it? And set your parameters to operate from soul mind, not ego mind. The computer desktop visualization, like, I've never been able to make it work so much as far as like manifesting what your desires, because that's what most people want to do. But you can remove a lot of bad things that way. One of my biggest stories when she taught me that was I was getting out of a period where I had done a lot of paranormal work. And I was sick and tired of demon crap and negative entities and all that bullshit. I was tired of it. So we did the thing with the desktop, and I just closed my eyes and I visualized my mind as a desktop, and I start searching through the files, and I found the file, and it was actually titled this: Demons, Entities, and Other Dumb Shit That I Don't Like. And I took that file and dragged it and put it in the recycle bin, and then hit empty, and I heard that sound, like that sound. And I kid you not, this was like the very end of September when I did it. I had the most boring October of my entire life. October has a spooky feel to it because it's associated with Halloween and stuff like that. There was none of that. It was like, it felt like the second week of May. I barely even saw any scary movies. I barely saw any Halloween decorations. It didn't feel like October at all. And then I went months and months and months and months and months. I didn't have anybody bother me with casework. I didn't deal with any of that stuff myself because I deleted all that crap out of my reality. But eventually, that's the thing about adversity. You want to be, sometimes you want to chill for a bit, but eventually you'll get bored. And I eventually got so bored that I allowed a little bit of it back into my life because I was just bored to tears, like nothing ever happened. So it's like there's got to be some kickback in your life or else you'll just get bored. But that's how powerful that technique is, and it just proves that you are co-creating your experience. There is a master script that we are all on, but as far as like what you're experiencing on the individual subjective level, you have some degree of co-creation involvement in that. Anyway, this has been on long enough, and you could probably go back and watch this again and find the point in which she kind of jumped in me, because I didn't know where I was going at first. But the point being, as far as the story goes, as far as the script goes, all this stuff is going down. And Mama's coming to get us soon. When that is, I don't know. What it looks like, I don't know. All I know is the signs are freaking everywhere. And she's been leading me to this point in time for a very long time. When you understand that it's not going to go back to the way that it was. If you're a Gen Xer like me, it's never going to go back to the 80s. It's never going to be that good again. It's just getting uglier and uglier and uglier and uglier. Why would you want to be here? Why would you want to be in a place like this? Like, there's hardly any love here anymore. Like, nobody can find love anymore. It's just devolved into, hookup culture and just all sorts of crap. And it's exactly the way they described the world was going to be when it was going to get to the end of its cycle. So now you've got somebody here at least telling you, if you believe me, I've seen enough. I know that this isn't real. Not real in the way that people that are just running on ego mind see it. To them, it's very real. It's all the real that they know. But to us, this is a temporary game that we're playing. I've been outside the game. I literally have her living in my freaking head. I can't even tell you, I could try to explain it to you, but it wouldn't click ever. Like when that happened, like when she actually, like that was some of the strangest couple months of my life. I always said, like, you think like sharing an apartment with someone is crazy, try sharing a body with one. At least until you get your stuff worked out. Because at first it's like putting a grown man and a woman in a child's sleeping bag. And you're like, move your foot. And it's like, what do you mean you don't like this? You gotta work together until you find some sort of like balance where you both coexist peacefully. But because I'm always in the driver's seat, she can back off a little bit. At first she was like right up in the front, like I'm driving a car, she's sitting in my lap. But that only works for so long. And it's like, look, we'll have plenty of time after this place, but we gotta like make it a little bit more manageable, because I can't focus on anything else when you're like literally on top of me 24/7. She's distracting. She's more interesting than anything that's in the world. She's more fun than anything that's in the world. But I still have to operate in the world. I still have to interact with other people. I still have to, interact with people that aren't like me. And so she has to kind of get in the back seat. But even if you don't have her to that degree, at the time that the timer runs out, you will get her once we're all wherever it is we get back to. That I know. In the meantime, biggest thing is like connecting to your mother, connecting to epinoia. Because she is I always described epinoia as being like, if you're down here and the upper realms are up here, whether it's, if you want to use the word God or whoever that's up there, she's the conduit between those two. So you need her. And stuff like this, the pendants that we make, really help. Just go to the Etsy store and read the reviews. I only have one type of review on my Etsy store, 5-star. Because we don't push them out to everybody. We put them out there to people that are intuitively led to her, whether they realize it yet or not. It's the same reason why I give this video a title, like whatever it is I titled it. And I'm not like, what's going to happen? The end is coming, blah, 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 blah. Because I could do that and it would get out there in the zeitgeist and I would pick up all sorts of views, but it's not for everybody. She's not for everybody. This isn't about views. This is about talking to the people that she wants me to talk to. Nobody else. Matter of fact, the last thing that I will ever invest any time in doing is changing somebody's mind. I don't believe in that stuff. Okay. Well, I'm not going to talk to you about it then. Because a lot of these people, you can't change their mind. They're not tuned to her. So she brings to me the people that she wants her message to be heard by. And no matter what you call her, like she's got so many different names, whether it's Christianity or Hinduism or anything. Like, she is this divine mother, she's the divine spirit, Holy Spirit, divine feminine, all that stuff. You know, you can't get like, no, I only believe in this slice with this name or this slice with that name. She's all of it. She's all of it. So she will, you might connect to her through me, but she's going to be what she needs to be to you. And you'll know it when you start hearing from her. But you have a lot of programming, and you've got a body, which is, the body is specifically designed to cut you off from her. That's why we make stuff to hijack it, to push through, to suppress the controls, to build the connection. It just speeds things up. That's all it does. But anyway, we've talked long enough. A lot of stuff to think about here. If you want to check out the pendants, go to the link in the description box below. And there is one on there that says custom made Aegis, Aegis, which that's like a super anti-negativity thing. But you could use that for, like, there's basically, if we really boiled it down to two things, there's like anti-negativity and positive enhancement. Whether it's that one can be fine-tuned. It can be more toward her intuitive spiritual stuff. It could be more toward her as the divine feminine mother, or it could be toward divine love. The other one is just like shut down all negativity. But you can use that one because it's a custom one and we have to talk to you if you want any other thing built for you specifically. But you got to trust her to build it. We talk to you, we start building it, she takes over, she decides what stones go in there and what quantity, and they tune it to you specifically. And you can, anybody wants to chime in that's had a specific pendant made for them, they can tell you how much more stronger they are when it's built for you specifically with my hands by her. All right, so that's all we got for right now. Chris and Lumen. See you next time.